Are you looking for a new sweater pattern? Then you've come to the right place. I'm Little John Yarns, and I come out with new videos every single week, so make sure you subscribe and click the notification bell. Today, we'll be creating this V-neck sweater using the dragon stitch. You can view the written pattern on my website at littlejohnyarns.com. The link will be down in the description box below. Let's hop into the pattern breakdown. This crochet sweater is created using 2 panels. We'll begin with the front panel, working from the bottom up. Next, we'll work on the right side of your V-neck, followed by the left side. Next, we'll complete the back panel, then sew everything together. The materials for this video, I'm using a 5mm crochet hook and Fantasy Dark Horse yarn, which is a worsted weight yarn, also known as a 4-ply or aran weight yarn. I definitely recommend creating a gauge swatch so your sweater won't come out too big or too small. To create a swatch, you begin by chaining 19 and completing the first 10 rows of this pattern. My swatch measures 5 by 5 1/4. Adjust your hook size if necessary. As usual, I provide timestamps for easy pattern navigation. We're going to begin by making a chain. Extra small, chain 51, small, 59, medium, 67, large, 75, extra large, 83, 2X, 91, and 3X, chain 99. If you're looking for a more custom fit, you're going to measure yourself around the widest part of your bust, divide that in half, and subtract a 1/2 inch for a more fitted sweater. And remember, this pattern is worked in multiples of 8 plus 1. We're going to begin by double crocheting into the 4th chain from the hook. So let's count 1, 2, 3, and 4. Those first 3 unworked chains will count as a double crochet. We're going to double crochet in each stitch all the way across. So pause your video here, continue placing 1 double crochet in each stitch all the way across, and I'll meet you at the other side. We've made it to the very end of our row, but I want you to double check, count your stitches, and make sure you have a multiple of 8 plus 1 stitch, because if you don't, your pattern will be off. For your next row, we are going to chain 1. Turn your work. We're going to single crochet back into that very same stitch right here. And chain 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Skip 3 stitches, 1, 2, 3, and single crochet into the 4th. That is going to be our pattern repeat all the way across. I'll show you again. Chain 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Skip 3 stitches, 1, 2, 3, single crochet into the 4th. And chain 5. You're going to repeat that all the way across. Chain 5, skip 3, single crochet. So pause your video here, and I'll meet you back at the other side. We've made it to the very end of a row, and we're going to place a single crochet in the top of your chain 3 stitch at the beginning of your row. All right, now we're going to start our repeat of the next 4 rows. And don't worry, the repeat is not complicated. It's basically a repeat of 2 rows, but just switched up a little bit. All right, to begin, we're going to chain 3. 1, 2, 3. Turn your work, and you're going to place 2 double crochets back into the very same stitch. 1 and 2. And this is basically going to be half of a shell. And to anchor down the shell, you're going to place a single crochet into that very first chain 5 space. And that brings that half a shell down as anchor. So next we're going to chain 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Single crochet into the next chain 5 space. Remember, this single crochet is going to be an anchor for your shell. We're going to place the shell into the next single crochet, and the shell is 5 double crochets. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 to complete your shell. And we're going to anchor that back down by single crocheting into the next chain 5 space. We're always going to anchor your shells down on either side with a single crochet. And let's begin that pattern repeat again, which is chain 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, single crochet into the next chain 5 space. As your anchor, place a shell into the single crochet. That's 5 double crochets. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and anchor your shell back down with a single crochet into the next chain 5 space. All right, you're going to repeat that sequence all the way across. What it's going to be, chain 5, single crochet into the next chain 5 space, shell, single crochet into the next. So what you'll have is a bump, flat, bump, flat, bump, flat, bump, all the way across. So pause your video here, continue that sequence all the way across, and I'll meet you at the very end to work the last stitch together. Okay, we made it to the very end of the row, and we have this last chain 5 space, which we're going to single crochet into. And remember, whatever you do on this side is going to be an exact match on the opposite side. So here we began with 3 double crochet, and we're going to end with 3 double crochets into that very first single crochet stitch. So this is 1, 2, and 3. And remember, those 3 double crochets represents half of a shell. For your next row, you're going to chain 1, turn your work, and single crochet into that very same stitch, that first one right here. This row is just going to be a sequence of single crochets and chains. So chain 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Single crochet into the first chain 5 space. Chain 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And now you're going to single crochet into the next, the top of your next shell. The top of your shell is the 3rd double crochet in the shell, tongue twister. So 1, 2, 3, that's the top of my shell. Single crochet and chain 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. What you're doing is single crocheting in each chain 5 space and single crocheting into the top of each shell. So that is your pattern repeat. So remember, single crochet into the chain 5 space, chain 5, single crochet into the top of your shell, chain 5, single crochet into the chain 5 space, chain 5, all the way across, and I'll meet you at the end to work that stitch together. We've made it to the very end of our row, and remember, we're always going to mirror exactly what we do on one side to the other side. So we are going to chain 5, which we did, and single crochet into the top of your chain 3 stitch. That will be the top of the half shell. All right, for our next row, we are going to chain 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This next row is almost like the previous row down here, but we're going to stagger our shells. So this was our first half shell. So our next shell, which is staggered, is going to be right here. So to begin, we're going to single crochet into the very first chain 5 space. Remember, your single crochets are anchors for your shell. We're going to shell into the next single crochet. That's 5 double crochets. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Now we're going to anchor our shell by single crocheting into the next chain 5 space. And chain 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, just like the previous row, and single crochet into the next chain 5 space. And you're going to create another shell. I'm going to move a little bit faster. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And remember to anchor down your shell into the next chain 5 space. That is going to be your pattern repeat all the way across the row. And just like previously, it's going to be to begin, since it's a chain 5, a flat bump, flat bump, flat bump, all the way across. And I'll meet you at the other side. All right, we made it to the very end of the row. And remember, we're going to mirror each side. So on this side, you see the anchor and the height of a chain 5 space. So on this side, let's finish our shell anchor into this chain 5 space. And to create the height of a chain 5 space, we're going to chain 2, 1, 2, and double crochet into the very first single crochet, well, the very last single crochet of the row. So there's a single crochet from the previous row. And that creates the height of the chain 5 space. So for your next row, just like the row from below this one, we're going to chain 1, turn your work. We're going to single crochet into each chain 5 space and the top of each shell. So let's single crochet into the very same stitch. Chain 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Single crochet into the top of your shell. Chain 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Single crochet into the chain 5 space, just like before. That's going to be your pattern repeat all the way across. So you're going to chain 5, single crochet into the chain 5 space, chain 5, single crochet into the top of your shell, chain 5, single crochet into the chain 5 space, chain 5, single crochet into the top of your shell, all the way across, and I'll meet you at the other side and show you how to work that stitch together. We've made it to the very end of the row, and I've already chained 5, and we're going to place a single crochet into the third stitch of your chain 5 space, because remember, we're mirroring what we did on the opposite side. And that completes your 4-row pattern repeat. To repeat this, I'll leave a timestamp below on exactly where to repeat your rows. But what you're doing is basically 2 rows over and over again. You're just staggering your shell stitches. Here is a swatch worked up a little bit bigger. As you can see, to make sure everything's right, you'll always have a shell, space, shell, space, shell, space. So if you notice your things are stacked on top of each other, that means you did the stitch wrong. Continue with your 4-row pattern repeat until you reach your desired length. The ending point will be slightly above your breast line. Remember to end after completion of row 3. Okay, we finished all of our additional rows and we ended with row number 3. So now we're going to start working on the collar of your work and create like a V-neck. To do that, we're going to count over into the middle stitch and place a stitch marker. Okay, I know it's going to be a little bit hard to see, but how to find a middle stitch. We'll start with the half shells on either end. So this will be 1, count over shell, 2 on both ends, 3, 4, 5, 6. And this is your middle shell right here. And place a stitch marker in it. Okay, we have our center stitch marked off. So let's begin our row. Here's the yarn from the previous row. I never cut it off. I already chained one, so I'm going to single crochet into that very same space. And just like before, we're going to chain 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, single crochet into the next chain 5 space, chain 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, single crochet into the shell, all the way across until you make it to the space before your stitch marker. So continue your single crochet, chain 5, single crochet all the way across until you make it to the chain 5 space before your stitch marker. Okay, we've made it to that chain 5 space before your stitch marker. So we're going to single crochet into that chain 5 space. And we're going to single crochet into the top of your shell stitch right here. See how these are pinched close together. So for your next row, we're going to chain 1, turn your work. Let me get my camera correct. We are going to single crochet back into that very same space. And now we're going to shell into that previous single crochet. So you remember a shell is 5 double crochets. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And to bring down that shell, we're going to single crochet back into the chain 5 space, the next chain 5 space, and chain 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're going to repeat our normal sequence of single crocheting into the next chain 5 space, shell into the next single crochet space, 1, 2, I'm moving a little bit faster, 3, 4, 5, because you guys should already know how to make a shell, and single crochet back into the next chain 5 space, chain 5. We're going to repeat that all the way to the other side, and I'll meet you at that very last stitch. So remember, chain 5, single crochet into the next chain 5 space, shell, single crochet into the next chain 5 space, chain 5. All right, pause your video here, and I'll meet you at the end. Okay, we made it to the very end of our row, and now we already put our single crochet into that last chain 5 space, and we're going to chain 2, 1, 2, and place a double crochet into the very last single crochet at the end of your row. All right, so now we're going to chain 1 and turn your work. We are going to single crochet into the very same stitch, chain 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, single crochet into the top of your shell, and chain 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're going to repeat this all the way across, and we're going to stop at the chain 5 space before your last shell. So continue with the chain 5, single crochet into the chain 5 space, chain 5, single crochet into the shell, all the way across into the stitch before your last shell of your previous row. Okay, we made it to the space before your last shell. So we're going to single crochet into that space. And we're going to single crochet into the top of your shell stitch. We're bringing those two together. All right, I'm going to pause my video here so I can flip my work because it's starting to get a little bit big. So turn your work. Okay, we have our work turned. I forgot we need our chain 1. And we're going to single crochet back into that very same space and shell into that very next single crochet. That's 5 double crochets. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And just like before, we're just going to single crochet into the next chain 5 space and chain 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And continue that normal sequence of, whoops, I'm losing my work. It's falling off the table. Single crocheting into the next chain 5 space, followed by a shell, and anchoring it back down by single crocheting into the next chain 5 space and chaining 5 all the way across until we make it to the other side. So just repeat the same sequence from before. We've made it to the very end of this row, and I've already placed the single crochet in the last chain 5 space. Now we're going to place 3 double crochet in the last single crochet. 1, 2, and 3. Chain 1 and turn your work. Let's single crochet back into that very same stitch. Chain 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Single crochet into the chain 5 space. Chain 5 again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and single crochet into the top of the shell. That is going to be our pattern sequence all the way across this row until you make it to the last chain 5 space before your shell. So continue placing single crochet, chain 5, single crochet into the top shell, chain 5, single crochet into the chain 5 space, chain 5, single crochet into the shell, all the way across until you make it to the chain 5 space before your last shell. We've made it to the very end of the row, and we are going to single crochet into that last chain 5 space and single crochet into the top of your shell stitch. And the last 4 rows is going to be our pattern repeat to create that slope V-neck of your top. Don't worry about it. I'll leave a timestamp below to tell you where the start of those 4 rows are. For myself, I completed an additional 8 more rows. So I did it 2 more times. Row 2, well, in the pattern, it would be considered row 2 through 5, 2 more times. So pause your video here and make sure you end on that 5th row, which is this right here. So pause your video here and I'll meet you at the completion of your rows. All right, we finished that last row that had single crochets and chain 5s. And we're going to start on our last 2 rows of single crochets. I already chained 1 to begin this very next row. So we're going to single crochet back into that same chain, that same single crochet. Single crochet into the second single crochet. And now we're going to place 4 single crochets into the chain 5 space. 1, 2, 3, 4, and a single crochet into the top of your previous row single crochet. And once again, single crochet 4 into the chain 5 space. I'm going to move a little bit faster because you all can single crochet. That's 2, 3, 4, and single crochet into the top of the your previous row single crochet. Single crochet 4 into the chain 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, and single crochet into that very last single crochet. So for that row, all you're doing is single crocheting in the previous row single crochet and placing 4 single crochets into your chain 5 space. So chain 1, and for your very last row, you're just going to place single crochets in each stitch all the way across. Simple as that. So pause your video here. Continue placing 1 single crochet in each one of your top stitches all the way across. And I'll meet you at the other side. Okay, we made it to the other side, and all you have to do is fasten off your work, and we'll move on to the other side of your collar to create that V-neck. Okay, now that we're done with that first part of your V-neck, as you can see, here's the flat part of the top and your center shell and the start of your side of your V-neck. Now we're going to place the second half of your V-neck right here so you can have the other side of your V-neck. All right, now find that center shell from the original row. That was the 6th shell in. And that is the same spot where you attached the original part of your V. So attach your yarn right there on that center shell. All right, once your yarn is attached, we are just going to chain 1 and single crochet into the very same space. And now single crochet into the next chain 5 space. Now we're going to start our pattern repeat by chaining 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, single crocheting into the top of your shell stitch, chain 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and single crocheting into the chain 5 space. All right, you're going to repeat that sequence all the way across, and I'll meet you at the very last stitch and we'll work it together. Okay, we made it to the very end of our row and I already chained the last 5 stitches. And now we're just going to single crochet into the top of your chain 3 stitch. Now chain 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now we're going to turn our work. We're going to single crochet into that very next chain 5 space and place a shell in the next single crochet. I'm going to shell much faster. By this point in the pattern, you should know exactly how to do a shell stitch, and that is 5 double crochets into 1 single crochet. This is 3, 4, 5, and single crochet into the next to bring down that shell. All right, chain 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and we're going to begin our pattern repeat by single crochet into the next, shell, single crochet into the next. We're going to do that all the way across until you make it to your last 2 single crochets. So pause your video here and we're going to leave those last 2 single crochets unworked. Okay, we have those last 2 stitches unworked, already single crochet in that last chain 5 space. I know it's hard to see, but you remember those single crochets from the previous row, the first 2? That's what we're going to be working into. So we're going to shell into that next single crochet. Remember 5 double crochets. And if you ever think I'm moving too fast, if you look on your screen, you'll see 2 double lines. 3 triple lines on mobile viewers, 1, 2, 3, 4. And you can click that and you can slow down the speed to the video. And if you're on a desktop, down here, you'll see a little gear button and you can click that and slow down the video there. So your very last stitch, you're going to place a single crochet into. See, you brought down that shell. All right, for your very next row, we're going to turn our work. Sorry, my project is getting a little bit big, so I'm going to pause my video to turn my work. Okay, now that we have our work turned, we're going to slip stitch into the next 3 stitches. Not this stitch that you're on right here, but the next 3. 1, 2, 3, to bring us back to the top of your shell. So skip that first stitch, slip stitch into the next 3. 1, 2, and 3. Now we're going to chain 1 and single crochet back into that very same stitch. All right, next we're just going to single crochet into the next chain 5 space. See, we're bringing our stitches over to make a proper V to our V-neck. All right, next we're going to chain 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and we're going to start our normal pattern repeat. Sorry about the pattern sliding. Like I said, the item is getting a little bit heavy. Single crochet into the top of your shell. chain 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and single crochet into the top of the chain, well, in with the chain 5 space. All right, we're just going to keep repeating that all the way across, chaining 5, single crochet into the top of your shells and your chain 5 space all the way across, and I'll meet you at the very end of this row. We've made it to the very end of the row, and I've already did my last chain 5, and we're going to single crochet in the 3rd stitch up of this chain 5 stitch. So 1, 2, 3, single crochet. Now we are going to, let me look at my pattern, chain 3, 1, 2, 3, turn your work. This chain 3 will count as a double crochet. Now we're going to place 2 more double crochets into that very same space. That's creating the half shell at the beginning of the row. That's 1. Uh-oh. And 2. Okay, now we are going to single crochet into the next chain 5 space to bring down the end of that shell. Chain 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and we're going to start our pattern repeat by single crocheting to the next chain 5 space and placing the shell into the next single crochet. 1, 2, 3, oh bananas, I'm having an off crochet day. 3, that's still 2, 3, 4, and 5. And now you're just going to single crochet into that next chain 5 space. Then chain 5 and repeat that pattern sequence all the way into the last 2 stitches. So chain 5, single crochet into the next chain 5 space, shell, single crochet into the next chain 5 space, and chain 5. Repeat that all the way across into your last 2 single crochets. Okay, we made it to those last 2 single crochets of the row. I already chained 5 and single crocheted into the chain 5 space. So let's shell into the next single crochet. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and single crochet into that last single crochet to bring down your shell. And now we're going to turn our work, and like I said, for me to turn my work, I'm going to pause the video because the top is getting big. Okay, I have my work properly turned around, and I'm not going to slip stitch into this first stitch. I'm going to slip stitch into the next 3 stitches, 1, 2, 3, to be on the top of my shell. So slip stitch 1, 2, and 3, chain 1, single crochet in the very same space, and single crochet into the next chain 5 space. Now we're going to start our pattern repeat of chaining 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, single crochet into the top of your shell, and chain 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and single crocheting into the next chain 5 space. Okay, you're going to repeat that sequence all the way across by chaining 5, single crochet into the shell, chaining 5, single crochet to the chain 5 space, all the way across, and we'll work that last stitch together. Okay, we've made it to the very end of this row, and I already chained 5, and we're going to single crochet into the top of the chain 3 stitch. Okay, the last 4 rows is going to be a pattern repeat. So you don't have to know exactly where the very first row begins. I'll leave a time step below. But if you're following along in my pattern, I did those last 4 rows a total of 2 times. So I added 8 additional rows. So now you can pause your video here and continue to add those 8 additional rows. And if you're following along the pattern, make sure that you end on row 5, or if you're watching this video, make sure you end with this row. So pause your video here and I'll meet you at the completion of your rows. We've made it to the very end of our row, and we're going to place a single crochet into the chain 3 stitch. 1, 2, 3. Single crochet. And we're going to turn our work. And these will be the last 2 rows. You're going to chain 1 and single crochet into the very same space. And now we're going to place 4 single crochets in the chain 5 space, then another single crochet. So let's do that. 4 single crochets, 1, 2, 3, 4, and a single crochet in the previous row single crochet. And that is going to be our pattern repeat across. So we're going to place 4 single crochets in your chain 5 space, followed by a single crochet into the previous row single crochet. I'll repeat one more time. We're going to place 4 single crochets in the chain 5 space, followed by the very last single crochet. All right, pause your video here and I'll meet you when you make it to your very last single crochet. We've made it to the very end of the row, and I put my 4 single crochets in my chain 5 space, and I'm going to put my last single crochet in to the previous row single crochet. Chain 1 and turn your work. This next row is going to be simple. All you have to do is single crochet in each stitch all the way across. So pause your video here, continue placing single crochets all the way till you make it to your very last single crochet. We've made it to the very end of our work. You can fasten off but leave a long tail for sewing. Next, we're going to move on to the second panel, which is the easiest part. If you're following along to the written pattern, you're just going to repeat row 1 through 6 according to the written pattern. If you're just watching this video, you're going to look at timestamps 1 minute and 20 seconds through 13 minutes and 30 seconds and follow the instructions there to complete the back panel. Continue to complete your crochet rows until it matches the length of your front panel. Okay, we completed all of our additional rows, and now we're just going to finish off the border of the back half of your top. As you can see, you're left with single crochets and chain 5 spaces. What we're going to do, we're going to chain 1, turn your work. We're going to single crochet into that very same space. And we're going to place 4 single crochets into your chain 5 space. 1, 1, 2, 3, and 4. And you're going to place 1 single crochet in the previous row single crochet. And that is going to be your pattern repeat all the way across. 4 single crochets in your chain 5 space, followed by 1 single crochet in the previous row single crochet. I'll repeat one more time. 4 single crochet, 1, 4, 1, 4, 1 all the way across, and I'll meet you back at the other side. We've made it to the last single crochet of this row. And we're just going to chain 1, turn your work, and single crochet into that very same space. And we're going to single crochet in each stitch all the way across. Simple as that. So pause your video here and place 1 single crochet in each stitch all the way across, and I'll meet you back at the other side. We've made it to the opposite side of our work, so now all we have to do is fasten it off and we'll move on to sewing. Now you're going to assemble your top. To assemble, you're going to place your front panel on top of your back panel. You're going to sew according to the pictures in this diagram. Sew across the top shoulders and across the sides, leaving enough space for your armholes. You can use any sewing technique that you like. Next, I'm going to show you what it looks like completely assembled. If you would like your sweater or top more fitted, you can add laces to the back as you would lace a shoelace to give it a more form-fitting look. Thank you for joining me on this tutorial. If you enjoyed this, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and check out my other crochet patterns. Okay, I'll see you on the very next tutorial.